Hey guys, just got an email from Seamus. It says, emergency. I've got to cut the cake for my 9-year-old's birthday today, and I always seem to mess it up. I just can't find the right thing to use. I know the guys at the Shift Garage are really handy. Any tips? Oh yeah, I can take care of this. Step 1, make a cake. Step 2, find floss from all those dentist visits that you've never used. Step 3, use the floss to cut even lines through the cake. And send. Emergency averted. Hold it. Hey Fountain Springs, my name is Pastor Joe, and I am over the Shift Garage car ministry here at Fountain Springs Church. I've been doing that for about 6 years. I've been full-time in that position for coming up on 3 years. I love what I do. I hope you've heard of the Shift Garage. If you haven't, let me just tell you real quick. We're a ministry of this church that fixes cars for people that can't afford a full bill at a traditional shop. And then sometimes lovely people like you donate a vehicle that we will fix up with volunteer labor and discounted parts, and then give to a single mom or low-income family, something like that. I just really love what I do, and I'm always aware of the fact that I can't do it without your support. So whether you give regularly on the weekend and fund the Shift Ministry in that way, but whether you pray for us, what we're doing, our decision-making, how we're being seen in the community, or if you've actually been to the shop to physically work on a car with your hands, I just really appreciate what you do, because I can't help people in this way without you. So I always want to mention that I'm appreciative of that whenever I have the chance. Today, we're going to talk about rest. So I want to get you in the right mindset, the right mood to hear a sermon on rest. So find a really comfortable position in your chair. Try not to mess your neighbor up any more than you have to, but kind of squirm around and get a good position in your chair that feels good. If you've gotten a coffee, then take a sip of that and really savor the flavor of that coffee. And then I just want us to work on our breathing just for 1 second. Just let's breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. Just inhale and exhale, get on the same page. So, okay, you guys look much more ready to accept a sermon on rest. Now, there's some things that just make us feel better, some little things even, that just make us feel better every time we do them. I've got one for you. I'm going to share it with you. I've shared it this week with several people, and they did not know about it, and they're now believers. So I hope I can get you on board as well. Every time you pull up your socks, you feel better. Now, some of you agree with me. The ones of you that don't need to reach down and pull up your socks right now and then feel. Do you feel that? It feels amazing. I don't know why that is, but it works every time. You're welcome for that one. Okay, so now that you're comfortable, you're enjoying your drink, you got your breathing correct, your socks are pulled up. Now you have a 67% chance of falling asleep during this sermon. And technically, you would be applying it because the sermon is on rest. However, I really don't want you to do that, because what we've got here is a give a man a fish versus teaching him how to fish type of situation. And I think that I've got some tools and methods here that would really help you make rest a better and more meaningful part of your life, ways that you can apply it better. I want to start off just a little bit heavy with a scripture and see if you identify with this. The scripture is Job 20, verse 18. It says, "They are unable to relax and enjoy anything they've worked for." Does that describe your situation? Do you find yourself, you started working to provide things that would make your life better. That's what we hope for. But do you find yourself realizing that you focus so much on the work because that's what you're doing day in and day out, that you're actually not enjoying the things that it was supposed to accomplish? I don't want that to be the case in your life. Exhaustion is not a status symbol. We've got to get that down. If you're exhausted all the time, you're overworking yourself, you're not providing what you should be at home, and you're just overworking. You can't keep it up forever. You will impress very few people. You'll impress them for the wrong reasons, and ultimately you will get burnout and accomplish less in that situation. I actually had an assistant pastor at the church I pastored before here. I pastored a little church in Montana, and I had an assistant pastor there, and we would meet weekly discussing what we should do with the church, what direction we should move it, how things should be accomplished. And we were just two very different people. He was a very type A, driven, enthusiastic, kind of over-the-top person, and I'm really known for being more of a relaxed, laid-back kind of guy. It takes a lot to get me excited about something, and we just came at it from two different ways. But besides that, I was worried for him about how he was addressing things. I thought he was keeping up a pace that he couldn't do sustainably. So he was always pushing me to push the congregation to move things faster and make decisions snappier. But we were pastoring a small rural church of ranchers that like to take time and make sure that they're making the right decision before they make any decision. And so it just wasn't the right method in that situation. But when I came here, he actually had the chance to take over the church entirely. So he became the senior pastor of that church. And if you can imagine in your mind a man trying to pull a donkey that doesn't want to be pulled, that's kind of what that situation looked like. They were just kind of butting heads, and it was not working out the way that either one of them wanted to. But he just kept going at it. And from the outside, it looked like this was the way it was going to be for a long time. This was kind of the thing they had settled into, and this is going to be what happened. But that wasn't the case, because he ended up having a severe anxiety attack and actually ended up in the hospital for a while over it. I tell you that story not as an I told you so, not because I saw that coming and called it, but I tell you that story because some of you think that since you're currently maintaining a pace that you shouldn't be, that you'll be able to do that forever. And I'm just trying to give you an example that it will catch up with you. I don't want that for you. I want more for you. There's a story of a lady that ran into her pastor on a Tuesday, and she said, "Pastor, I tried to get a hold of you a bunch of times. I called the office yesterday, and I just was not able to get a hold of you to talk about my issue." And the pastor said, "Oh, I'm really sorry about that, but Monday is my day off. I'm not in the office, so it would have to be from Tuesday on that I could help you with that." And she's kind of indignantly, kind of upset about her situation, said, "Well, how can a pastor take a day off? Because Satan doesn't take a day off, so that doesn't make any sense." And the pastor, kind of coming at it from a little older, wiser point of view, said, "You're right, Satan doesn't take a day off, and if I didn't take a day off, I would be just like he is." Does that kind of get the point across? We need to take some time to rest and relax a bit, to be at our full potential, to be who God made us to be. Now, I myself am not known to be a workaholic, and I think the reason for that is because I'm not a workaholic. I actually think that I do a pretty good job of working hard when I'm at work and then not taking that home with me and being really present when I'm at home with my family and my friends. So I think that's one of the areas that I've got balanced a little bit better than other areas in my life. But I have just come through a time of being really worried and anxious about my future, kind of planning for that time and building wealth now so I would have something later to provide for my family and live in the style that I would like to. I keep hearing people say that at my age that has a term like midlife crisis or something. I don't know. People keep saying that. Maybe you can tell me if that's the case or not. But in any event, I was focused too much on that and wasn't focused on my spiritual well-being. Somehow, in the effort to keep up with our friends and neighbors, we've heard it called keeping up with the Joneses, in that kind of spirit, we've made the terms rest and lazy mean the same thing. We think that if someone takes a break, someone rests, that they're lazy, that shows weakness in some way, and that's just not the case. We have got to fix that. Genesis 2:2 tells us that God rested on the seventh day after creating earth. On the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all of his work. Now, if you believe that God was lazy, then that's a different conversation that we can have. I'll just remind you that God had created everything that exists or ever will exist in the previous 6 days. So if you have not done that, you are probably not in the place to call God lazy, but we can have that conversation if you want. Do you realize that when you refuse to take time to rest, the right amount of time that you should rest, you're saying that you're busier than God was when He created the universe? That might not be your intention, that might not be the heart behind what you're doing, but that is what you're saying, and that can become a real pride issue. But we'll focus on that later. Also, rest is one of the 10 commandments. It's listed in Exodus 31, verse 17. It is a permanent sign of my covenant with the people of Israel. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, but on the seventh day He stopped working and was refreshed. That word there, refreshed, means that God wasn't just tired. God was focusing on His soul and His spirit. God set the Sabbath day apart as holy. Now, if you haven't used the term Sabbath at the kitchen table lately, if you are not real familiar with the term Sabbath, let's just discuss it real quick. Essentially, it means a day of rest, a rest day. So let's talk about some of the benefits of rest in the form of sleep. Some of these you've heard, some of them you haven't. If you sleep more, you will improve your memory. You will live longer. It can spur creativity. It can help you win athletic events. The Stanford study says that their athletes that tried to get at least 10 hours of sleep over 7 or 8 weeks not only had less fatigue during the day and more stamina, but actually increased their sprint time. Some of their activities actually made them faster. You can reduce stress. You've probably heard about that one. You can reach or maintain a healthy weight. You can even avoid car accidents. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said in 2009 that more fatal single-car accidents were caused by drivers being sleepy than drivers that were under the influence of alcohol. More from not being rested sleep-wise than driving under the influence. That's crazy to me. So that tells us several benefits of sleep, which is the unconscious side of rest. But true rest isn't as easy as just sleeping. If it was that easy, it would be really simple. I mean, we still wouldn't do it because we're not sleeping enough as it is, but it would be much easier. But it's more than just sleeping. It's about taking time to rest and focus on more than just work and sleep. I'm going to use the example of Chick-fil-A here, both because it's a great example of what I'm talking about, and because it always gets me bonus points with David whenever I bring up Chick-fil-A. David will want me to mention here, if you have the resources to bring a Chick-fil-A to town, he would like to talk to you about that. But ever since the first location opened in 1967, Chick-fil-A has been closed on Sunday. Now, I think most of us know that they're doing that today, but did you know they've always done that since 1967? Every Sunday, every location is closed. So, looking at them from a business standpoint, we can assume that they're coming up short every year by 1/7 of their income. Are you tracking along with me there, that there's 7 days in a week? They don't work Sunday. Okay, you guys are doing good. Given the number of locations they have, how much every location brings in on every day, if they're losing 1/7 of their business, that is just a hair over $1 billion per year. So why would a for-profit company give up $1 billion per year? Well, they don't, is the answer. In fact, Chick-fil-A is the 8th largest fast food company, but in per-store sales, they beat everybody. They're number one. Their direct competition is KFC. KFC stores bring in $960,000 per year on average, while a Chick-fil-A store brings in $3.1 million. So over 3 times as much, just giving KFC that whole day, just letting them run wild on Sunday. That's crazy. Taking a day of rest for their employees makes everyone happier, and in turn has made the company more profitable. So it's more than just sleep. It's about resting and focusing on the right things. So I want to get to our Bible story for today, and that is about 2 women, Mary and Martha. They've heard that Jesus is coming to their house for lunch. Now, How would you deal with that situation? Hearing that Jesus is coming to your house for lunch. If I told you that today, how would that affect what you're going to do? I think that I'm certainly the last generation that grew up this way. I might be the last year of people that grew up this way. At my house, we had a lot of stuff around for this hypothetical situation. We had special plates that we were not allowed to use, like gravy boats and stuff that no one ever uses. We had special, like sterling silverware, all on hand in case the president were ever to stop by to have lunch at our house. I don't know what series of events would have led to this happening. It never did. The president never came by for lunch. But we had this stuff in our house. If you had that, parents parented a little bit differently. Maybe you saw it on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Maybe you didn't at all. It was just locked away for that situation. But no matter what your political views are, I think we can agree that Jesus trumps the president. And so if Jesus is coming to your house, this is a really big deal. So how would you go about it? These two sisters go about it in different ways. One of them is busy preparing a meal for Jesus. Jesus didn't do a lot of traveling alone. He had his disciples with him. He had followers with him. He had kind of an entourage of people. So it's a large group of people, but then it's Jesus, right? That's also going on. So if you are a person that's good at hospitality, this is officially the time to freak out, right? And that's what she does. She's getting the house clean. Now, I don't know why I imagine this. I imagine this like hurried scene where she's just throwing everything in the closet. I know none of you have ever done that. You put it all in the closet and shut the door so nobody can see it. I am not allowed to do it anymore because I'm married. But she throws everything in the closet, and then later Jesus shows up and reminds her that he's all-knowing and he can see everything, and that didn't do any good. That's not in the Bible. I have fun when I read the Bible, and that's what I see. But let me get to the story. It's in Luke 10, verses 38 through 42. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." She's pretty emphatic about this. Tell her she's got to help me because I'm doing all the work, and she uses an exclamation point when talking to Jesus. You have to be fairly certain about what you're saying to use an exclamation point against Jesus in that way. But Jesus says, "Do you know that few things are needed, or indeed only one?" Do you know what he's talking about there? He's talking about the food. See, Martha, trying to be the best hostess that she can, she's doing a full Thanksgiving meal here. She's got the meat, the green bean casserole, the mashed potatoes, the cranberries. She's doing the whole thing. And Jesus says, you got to understand, you're getting the best meal for your soul right now through me teaching. I'm here on earth right now that you will ever get. We don't have to worry about the food. We don't need all of the things. We just need one thing to sustain our bodies. So go throw something in the Instant Pot and come over here and listen to what I'm saying like your sister. This is more important than your belly right now. The point I'm making is, have we been too much like Martha lately? Have we been focusing on things that when we sit down and really think about it, they're not the important things. They don't matter that much. Have you ever found yourself working hard at or worrying over something that just didn't turn out to be that big of a deal? I'm gonna date some of us a little bit, but not that bad, really. Who was around for Y2K? Who was around for everybody freaking out about Y2K, right? So I had a particularly good time with Y2K. I was hanging out with my dad a lot at the time. I was a teenager, and he was listening to a lot of like Rush Limbaugh, those kind of guys. And so I got to hear a lot of interesting stories about here's what's going to happen. Planes are going to fall out of the sky. Prison cell doors are going to swing open. Your car's not going to work because of the computers in it. All this stuff's going to happen. And so people freaked out. people were building these underground bunkers with food and water for the next 10 years and arming themselves with guns to protect their property and doing all this stuff. And they were freaking out for this like end of the world type of event. Well, if you weren't around for Y2K, you haven't heard us talk about it a lot. And that's because nothing happened. And we're kind of embarrassed that we freaked out about it at all. I actually filmed Y2K hitting my town. I had a camera, like a camera with a VHS tape in it. It was humongous. It looked like I was a professional newscaster, but it was actually a really crummy camera because it was 1999, and that's all we had. But I filmed it, and nothing happened. And so those people that were prepared for the end of the world, they spent tens of thousands of dollars on these bunkers. It was all a complete waste. You realize that, right? They weren't walking around on January 2nd saying, well, now I got this handy-dandy bunker in case something else happens, or what if I'm around for Y3K and that's the big one and that's when it really sets off? No, it was a complete waste of time. So how can we be more like Mary? How can we focus on the things that we should be focusing on? Well, first, Mary understood the concept of the Sabbath. We've said that it's a day of rest, but specifically, it's a day of rest for your soul. Have you ever found yourself where you had a couple of days at home, like you don't know how it happened? Something happened at work, some holiday you've never heard of before, and all of a sudden you've got this long weekend, and you've got 2 days to just catch up on your Netflix stuff, right? Whatever show, whatever season you're in, you just watch Netflix for 2 days. You would assume that you're really rested and rejuvenated after that, but you're not. You come out just as tired as you were, maybe drained a little bit more. All you were doing was sitting on the couch. Well, what you've done is you've rested your body and your mind, but you didn't do anything for your soul. Let's discuss real quick what your soul is. Your body and your mind, those are pretty easy. Those are the things that woke up this morning, that you got ready, you put in your car, you drove here, and they're sitting in your seat right now. That's your body and your mind. That's a part of who you are. But your soul is the other part. Your soul is the reason that you're animated in the way that you are, that you do the things you do, that make the decisions that you do. You can't see it with your eyes or touch it, but it's just as much a part of you. Genesis 2:7 points this out. It says, "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground," that's your body and your mind, "and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." You're also a soul. It's a big part of who you are. The Sabbath is not just a day of rest, but a day of rest for your soul. I don't think we put enough emphasis on that. God rests in this way. He tells us in Exodus 31:17, "It is a permanent sign of my covenant with the people of Israel. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, but on the seventh day he stopped working and was refreshed." He didn't rest because he was tired. God doesn't get tired. If you believe that after 6 days of work, God is exhausted, then your picture of God is far too small, and that needs to be addressed also. But God rested then and continues to rest because of something called soul care, taking time to focus on your soul. See, God had a plan. He knew he was going to rest on the seventh day before the first day started. God knows what's going to happen. This was a part of his plan. He set this up in our lives. There's a great story that I think really illustrates this point. It's about a rich man that after he retired had the time to go visit Africa the way he wanted to. He was going to see all the sights, do all the things, and so he flies into Africa, gets all of his bags and everything, and he hires these guys to lug around the luggage and drive the jeeps, and they're going to see all the sights. So he gets there day one, they go. They see these 4 things that are a ways away from each other. It's a big trip. Then day 2, same thing. We got to see these things, experience that. Day 3, exact same thing. They get up, they run all around, do this stuff so he can see everything he needs to see. Day 4, he gets up ready to do the same thing, but these guys that he's hired to run the luggage and the jeeps, they're off under a shade tree, just leaned up against it, kind of relaxing. And you know, he's going, okay, I don't know what the deal is with that. We have kind of a schedule to keep to here, but I guess let's see what happens here for a little bit. Let's see where this goes. But then it just keeps happening longer and longer, and he starts to get frustrated. So he finds the translator, and he says, hey, these guys are just resting over here. We got stuff to do. We got to go places. They're just sitting there doing nothing. And the translator, understanding more about the culture there, said, oh, no, you've got to understand. It's not that they're doing nothing. They're sitting still so their souls can catch up with their body. I hope that that story is as impactful to you as it was to me. Are you in a spot where you haven't waited for your soul to catch up with your body? Your body is killing it. You're thinking of new ways to have higher capacity and do more things and stretch yourself so you can do this. And you're doing all that really well, but you haven't stopped to let your soul catch up with your body. What's more important? Spending time with the creator of the universe or brushing your teeth? I hope that we're all in agreement that spending time with God is more important than brushing your teeth. You can ask your neighbor if you did an effective job brushing your teeth, but which one did we accomplish today? Which one have you gotten done? I hope that all of us have worked on brushing our teeth, at least attempted it. But have we spent time today with the creator of the universe? Or in fact, do we have plans for the rest of the day to spend time with the creator of the universe? I think that sometimes the most important things, the things we all say are more important, are easier to kind of slough off and not take so seriously. If you don't brush your teeth for a week, people are going to notice. You will get some comments about that. If you don't spend time in devotion in the Word for a week, you're probably going to get away with it. You'll get by with it until it becomes a much bigger issue that snowballs in your life later on. We have got to focus and take these things seriously. So, how do we take care of our soul? What do we do? Now, right before I tell you that, I want to address the tension between hearing a good idea and putting it into practice. Almost every week here at Fountain Springs, we hear something from stage and think to ourselves, that's a fantastic idea. I should totally do that. But then a lot of times, we don't. I know that you do that because I'm a pastor and I do the same thing. I sit in the seat you're sitting in, and twice a week at least, I listen to David or one of the other pastors give a sermon, and I go, that's a really good point. I should do that thing he's saying. If I did that thing he's saying, it would fix that thing in my life that I need to get under control, get it fixed. But not this week, because I've already got this week planned out. I've got stuff to do, things on my mind. It would be kind of inconvenient to do it this week, so I'll do it next week. And by next week, I've already forgotten about it. It's gone. But I know this formula for putting things into action in our life. It's the thoughts plus the action that equal life, that equal our reality. If we agree with the thought, we agree we need to do this thing, we have to put action with it in order to affect our reality. Because if you want it badly enough, you will do it. How do I know that you will do it? Because I have a son in soccer in this town, and when my son was 6, probably, he was playing soccer, and one of the parents comes over and tells us that the team will be traveling to Sioux Falls or Denver or somewhere ridiculous like that. And I thought, is my kid pulling a scholarship for soccer? Or is he getting like a semi-pro Olympic team? What are we talking about here? This kid is 6. But we have kids in sports, and we do these crazy things for them because we care about them and we want it bad enough. I want this to be one of those things in your life because, and hear me out on this, if you can properly accomplish resting your soul, it will improve every single area of your life. There are few things that I could talk about that could make that claim, but this one can. We've got to get this one right. So how do you do it? I think when we think about it, the first thing we think about is just sitting still, clearing our minds. Maybe you call it meditation, maybe you don't, but just sitting still, trying to clear your mind and be rested. Now, meditation can work out really well. I think it can be one of the most effective forms of rest if you're good at it. I am not good at it. When I sit there and try to clear my mind comes up with distractions to keep itself busier than before. I don't have a problem with meditation. The problem I have is we've been taught that if meditation doesn't work for you, that's the only option. Some of us can't get it to work. Some of us don't want it to work. Because if you're actually able to clear your mind of all of the thoughts, there's other thoughts there waiting for you. Those thoughts might be thoughts about guilt, thoughts about shame. There's stuff that we don't want to deal with. That's why we've always got earbuds in. We're always talking to somebody. The radio's on. Whatever it is, just to keep ourselves distracted from those thoughts. So I'm not saying that meditation can't be useful, but I am saying it's not the only thing. There's plenty of other things you can do. So it's super simple. I'm going to give you a 2-step life hack. This is the thing. So I know I told you to get kind of down in your chair, squirm down. I need you to sit up for just a little bit because these are going to come fast, and I want you to catch them. Step 1, figure out what fills you up. Figure out what feeds your soul that makes you whole in this way, and do more of that thing. Step 2, figure out what drains your soul, what just leaves you empty, a cavity in your soul, and you go, oh man, that was exhausting in a different kind of way than physical exhaustion. Oh, I just don't want to do that again. Figure out if there's a way that you can do less of that thing. Now you're an adult. You're going to have to do some things that you don't want to do. I get that. But when possible, figure out what's hurting you from restoring your soul and see if there's a way to do less of that thing. So I hesitate to say this. I'm going to give us some homework. Now, before your mind goes crazy with the word homework, I was a terrible student. I hated homework. This is good homework, okay? I know that every teacher says that. This is good homework. You're going to enjoy doing it. It's going to improve your life. It's going to be fun, okay? I need you to come up with 4 things that fill your soul, that feed you, that are your soul care. One of them you're going to do daily. One of them you're going to do weekly. One of them will be your monthly soul care. And one of them you will do annually. Correct. Good job. This year, I did a lot of research, read a lot of books about becoming happier because it's always surprised me. There are people in situations that are, I don't think it's even arguable, situations that are way below my own situation, and those people are happy. They're so happy, it's infectious. They come in the room and everyone's happy. Then there are people that on paper are doing far better than I am. They're wealthy, they have tons of friends, their relationships are good, everything's going for them, and they're crabby and upset all the time. Now, neither of those is the case most of the time, but you've seen what I'm talking about. You've seen this before, and it just doesn't make any sense. So I really wanted to study this and get into it. What I discovered was you can actually choose to be happy. You can choose to be a lot happier than you are now. I hope you get the power in what I just said. You can choose to be happier. Whenever possible, try to focus on the positive that's going on around you. It's just a mindset shift. That's all it is focusing on the positive. Now, I'm not asking you to be delusional. I'm not asking you to be happy about everything when things aren't going correctly. I get it. Things happen. But when possible, just focus on the positive. The number one tool that I have found in my own life that helps me with soul care, this is my daily, is to just sit on my front porch with a cool drink. It's summer now, it's nice outside. I've got a little deck out front with a couple of reasonably comfortable chairs where I can see a lot of the houses in the neighborhood and watch somebody mow their grass or watch a robin try to catch worms under a sprinkler I've got going. There's something about getting in the rhythm of nature. See, we live in the rhythm of mankind. I get hungry at noon because that's when the clock says to. I get off work at 5. The store closes at 8. I got to get there by this time. We live in the rhythm of man, but to live in the rhythm of nature, to watch a bird work or just listen to the trees with the wind going through them, it's so relaxing and inviting. There's something you just can't replicate about that. My weekly thing, I find an evening during the week to go out in my old pickup truck and just cruise down some country road, some winding road. You know, in the hills here, we've got a great place to do it. And I've got this 50-year-old truck that everything is broken on it except for it starts and runs. There's something so relaxing to me about just being in an old truck, shifting the gears, with your arm hanging out of the window and just going down and feeling the cool wind coming past you. I love it. So that's my weekly. It will also serve this year as my annual soul care because I'm planning a trip to take my son from end to end through Route 66 in the same old vehicle. The daily should be something free or cheap and really easy to pull off, whereas the annual can be something a little bit more extravagant, something hard to pull off. Now, you're noticing that I'm missing my monthly soul care, and I have to drop a bomb on you here. Sometimes when we preach from stage, we don't have every single piece of it figured out, and that's the case for me on this one. I don't have my monthly figured out. I'm working on it. When I get it, it will improve my life and my situation and make it better and make me in general happier. And so I'm looking forward to that. But I don't know what your soul care is. I do know that you can figure it out. If you look inside of yourself and use these steps I've given you today to think about what fills you up, what feeds your soul, you will find your daily, weekly, monthly, and annual soul care, and that will improve your life. Because again, I don't want you to end up like the people described in Job, where he says they are unable to relax and enjoy anything that they've worked for. I really think that God has more for your life than that. I think you're working towards something, and I think you would agree. Let's pray.